Welcome to the Finding Financial Freedom podcast with the Frugal Physician, where Dr. Disha Spath will be your companion on this exciting financial adventure. Get ready to conquer debt, build wealth, and embrace a mindful spending lifestyle that will empower you to live life on your own terms.
Hey there, frugal friends. Welcome back to Finding Financial Freedom with the Frugal Physician, the podcast where we break down the sometimes complex world of personal finance so you can make informed decisions about your money and your future. I'm your host, Dr. Disha Spath, and today we're going to deep dive into a topic that's on the minds of many parents and future parents: saving for college. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to my medical team at Albany Med, led by Dr. Thomas Cacciola. Thanks to their expert care, I am back here in just 2 weeks after having abdominal surgery. Hallelujah. Super, super excited to be back, and I can't wait to explore these financial topics with you. Speaking of financial topics, I had quite a bit of trouble getting my insurance to cover this surgery. And one tip I picked up is that you can actually look up the criteria for insurance coverage, basically the checklist that the reviewers are going off of, by just Googling it and the CPT code of what you're trying to get covered with the ICD-10 of the diagnosis that's listed for the reason of coverage. Anyway, if you just Google it, you can find the information that they're looking for. Thanks to that, I was able to get all the information they needed to them before the surgery. They denied it like 2 days before the surgery, which includes a weekend, which was insane. But anyway, thanks to Dr. Cacciola digging through my chart and finding a lab test from like 4 years ago, they were able to get all the information and approve the surgery, and I was able to get it done. And now I'm back and kicking. So let's go. Let's talk about saving for college. As parents, we want to give our kids the best opportunity possible, obviously. And for many, that includes helping them go to college. But with college tuition rising at an average rate of 6% a year, that's twice the rate of average inflation, it can feel like an uphill battle. Today, I'm going to walk you through different options for saving for college, including the pros and cons of each, how they impact financial aid eligibility, and some strategies to make the most of these savings vehicles. By the end of this episode, you'll feel more empowered to make the right choices for your family's future. Let's get started by tackling the first big question. So, how much should you save for college? The answer to this question can be daunting, but it really depends on your goals, and that's what makes it tough. Are you hoping to pay for all of your child's education, including tuition, room, and board? Or maybe you just want to cover a portion of the costs and have your child contribute or take loans out for the rest? Let's look at the numbers. According to the College Board, the average public in-state tuition and fees for 2024 is around $11,000. But if you factor in room and board, the total cost of public in-state school comes to about $30,000 per year. And of course, don't forget spending for groceries and things like that on top of that. If you're aiming for private school, tuition alone jumps to $41,000, $550 per year, with room and board pushing the cost closer to $60,000 annually. That's painful. So let's do that math. Over 4 years, a public in-state university would cost around $120,000 today, while a private school might cost around $240,000. And remember, tuition is projected to keep rising by 6% annually, so these figures are only going to go up. This is why it's critical to start saving early and regularly. But as important as college savings are, don't forget to prioritize your own retirement. Remember, your children can always take out loans for college, but you can't borrow money for your retirement. So make sure you're balancing both goals. Once you've decided how much to save or how much is feasible for your family, the next general question is, where should you save? So once you have a target savings goal in mind, the next big question is where you should save. There are several options available, and each has its own advantages and drawbacks. The key things to consider when choosing a savings vehicle are tax benefits. Are there any tax incentives to help your money grow faster? And the impact on financial aid. How will saving in certain types of accounts affect your child's ability to qualify for need-based financial aid? Now, you might think as doctors that you're not going to qualify for much need-based financial aid, but the FAFSA is important not just for things like Pell Grants, but also for determining how many subsidized loans you get versus unsubsidized loans. Subsidized loans are loans that don't accrue interest while the child is actually studying, and also in that 6-month grace period when the loans go into repayment. So it's important to remember that unsubsidized loans start accruing interest from day one whenever the loan is issued, even when the child is in school. Just to get more subsidized loans, we need to keep the FAFSA in mind, keep the financial aid impact of these accounts in mind. And of course, the FAFSA also determines scholarships and the aid the school offers in terms of scholarships. So, again, even if you don't think it's going to be an important part of your financial planning, it is important to keep the factors in mind. Let's break down the most popular savings options. First, the 529 savings plans. Let's start with the heavy hitter, 529 savings plans. These are arguably the most well-known and flexible of all college savings. There are no income limits. One of the best things about 529 plans is that anyone can contribute. There are no income limits, so whether you're a high-earning physician or a middle-income family, you can take advantage of the tax benefits. What are the tax benefits? Well, the money you contribute grows tax deferred. And when you withdraw it for qualified educational expenses like tuition, room and board, or textbooks, you won't owe any taxes on the earnings. Some states also offer a state income tax deduction or credit for contributions to their 529 plans, which is a nice bonus. So make sure you check your state for what they offer. 529 plans are pretty flexible. 529 plans aren't just for college anymore. Thanks to the 2018 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, you can also use these funds for K through 12 tuition at private, public, or religious schools. Additionally, if the funds aren't needed for education, you can roll over unused funds into a Roth IRA for the beneficiary, penalty-free. How do they impact financial aid? Well, this is important. 529 plan balances are considered a parental asset under the FAFSA rules, which means they have a smaller impact on financial aid eligibility than if they were considered a child's asset. Parental assets are assessed at a maximum of 5.64% for financial aid, while student assets are assessed at 20%. So basically, if it's considered a parental asset, that is beneficial for financial aid eligibility. If it's in the child's name, the school's going to assume a larger percentage of the child's assets are going to go towards funding their education, and that would decrease financial aid. There are also gift tax considerations to keep in mind. You can front load contributions to 529s by making a lump sum contribution that counts as 5 years' worth of gifts under the annual gift tax exclusion. This means you could contribute up to $85,000 per individual or $170,000 for a couple at once without triggering gift taxes. One important thing to note is that 529 plans are state specific, but you're not required to use your state's plan. You can invest in any state's 529 plan, although you may miss out on some state tax benefits if you invest out of state. So it's worth comparing plans from different states to find the one that offers the best combination of investment options, fees, and tax benefits. I'll link to a comparison tool in the show notes to help you evaluate your options. Also, make sure you check out the website for a handy flowchart that I like to make to compare these different plans for saving for college. Next up, let's talk about prepaid tuition plans. These are also a type of 529 plan. These plans allow for you to lock in today's tuition rates for future use, protecting you from skyrocketing costs of education. So they provide cost control. Do keep in mind, though, it's not just the tuition rates from today. You also pay a premium that's calculated by the school. So in purchasing these tuition credits, you effectively hedge against tuition inflation. This can be a great way to save if you're confident your child will attend a particular college or university. But there are limitations to prepaid tuition plans. They're typically state-sponsored, and they often come with residency requirements. Many of these plans also limit their use to in-state public universities, although some do offer out of state or private school plans, it's important to read the fine print to understand how these plans will apply to your child if they don't actually end up attending an in state school or a school that you plan for them to go to. Like 529 savings plans, prepaid tuition plans are considered a parental asset, which helps when calculating financial aid eligibility. One downside is the lack of flexibility compared to 529 savings plans. If your child decides not to attend an eligible institution, you might not get the full value of your prepaid plan, or you could face penalties for withdrawing the funds. Next up, ABLE accounts or 529A plans. For families with children who have disabilities, ABLE accounts, also known as 529A accounts, are a valuable tool. These accounts are specifically designed to help individuals with disabilities save for education and other expenses without jeopardizing their eligibility for government benefits like Medicaid or supplemental security income. Like 529 plans, ABLE accounts offer tax deferred growth and withdrawals for qualified expenses, including education, healthcare, and job training. So these are all tax free if withdrawn from this account. Social Security considerations. Contributions up to $18,000 in 2024 won't affect Social Security income eligibility, and up to $100,000 can be saved without disqualifying the beneficiary from receiving benefits. ABLE accounts are an excellent option for families who need to balance saving for future expenses with maintaining eligibility for important disability benefits. Another account that is a possibility for saving for college, but unfortunately, most physicians don't qualify for it, is called the Coverdell Education Savings Accounts, or ESA accounts. The income limits for this account phase out eligibility for contributions once you hit an adjusted gross income of $95,000 to $110,000 for single filers or $190,000 to $220,000 for married couples filing jointly. Most physicians won't qualify for this account. But that's okay. The maximum you can contribute is $2,000 per year per beneficiary, which is significantly lower than what's allowed in a 529 plan. There are also age restrictions. The funds must be used by the time the beneficiary turns 30, or they'll be subject to taxes and penalties. But you can roll over the funds to another family member to avoid penalties. While distributions from Coverdell accounts are tax-free when used for qualified educational expenses, they don't qualify for additional education tax credits like the American Opportunity Credit. Physicians are generally phased out of that credit as well. Overall, Coverdell ESAs can be useful for some families, but the income and contribution limits make them less favorable for high earners like many physicians. Next up, UTMA or UGMA custodial accounts. The Uniform Transfers to Minor Act, or UTMA, and the Uniform Gifts to Minor Act, or UGMA, accounts allow you to transfer assets to your child, but with some significant caveats when it comes to financial aid. There is parental control of this account. You control the account until your child reaches the age of majority, which is 18 or 21, depending on your state. Once your kids hit that age, they gain full control over the funds, which means that they can use it for whatever they want. This might not be ideal if you're concerned about them using the money responsibly. And you want to keep in mind that these accounts do have an impact on financial aid. Since these accounts are considered the child's asset, up to 20% of the funds are expected to be used for educational expenses, which can severely reduce their eligibility for financial aid. While there are some tax benefits, they're limited. Investment income generated by these accounts can be tax-free if it's under the threshold of kiddie tax. Let's go into kiddie tax. For 2024, the first $1,250 of investment income per year is tax-free. The next $1,250 is taxed at the child's tax rate, and anything beyond that is taxed at the parent's rate. So while UTMA and UGMA accounts can be useful for transferring wealth to your child, the tax benefits aren't as strong as other savings vehicles. Next account, the standard brokerage account. If you're looking for maximum flexibility, you might consider using a regular brokerage account to save for college. While it doesn't offer the same tax benefits as a 529 plan, it provides more freedom in how you use the funds. Unlike Coverdell ESAs, There are no income or contribution limits within a brokerage account. You can invest as much as you want, which can be appealing if you plan to save aggressively. You have investment flexibility. You have full control over your investments in a brokerage account. You can buy individual stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or ETFs. And you're not limited by the investment choices typically found in 529 plans. The downside is that you'll pay taxes on any capital gains or dividends that your investments generate. There's no government sponsored tax advantage to investing in a brokerage account. However, you can manage your tax liability by choosing investments strategically, using capital losses to offset gains, and taking advantage of long term capital gains tax rates rather than short term capital gains tax rates. All the strategies we have previously discussed on how to manage taxes in a brokerage account. So while brokerage accounts don't provide the tax-free growth of a 529 plan, they do offer more flexibility. If your child decides not to go to college or needs money for something else, you're not restricted on how you use the funds. Like 529 plans, brokerage accounts are considered parental assets, so they don't hurt your child's financial aid eligibility as much as accounts held in the child's name. Another option for funding saving for college are Series EE or I bonds. If you're a conservative investor looking for a safe government backed way to save for college, Series EE or I bonds might be worth considering, but keep in mind some income restrictions. These bonds are issued by the U.S. Treasury and offer tax free interest if the money is used for qualifying educational expenses. But again, income limits. Unfortunately, Series EE and I bonds come with income limits that phase out the tax benefits for high income earners. For 2024, the phase out begins at $96,000 for single filers and $145,000 for married couples filing jointly. Many physicians will be above this threshold, making the tax benefits unavailable. But these bonds are very low risk investments since they're backed by the US government. So if you do qualify, then it might be something to think about. These Series EE or I bonds are considered parental assets for FAFSA purposes, so they won't significantly impact your child's financial aid eligibility. Next option is a 2503C trust. This is a more complex option. These are irrevocable trusts that are designed to benefit minors, including for educational expenses. They offer more control over how and when the funds are used, but they also come with significant downsides. One significant downside is that they're considered a beneficiary asset, which means they could hurt your child's chances of financial aid. Up to 20% of the trust's assets will be expected to go towards education, which is much higher than the 5.64 expected from parental assets. The income generated by the trust is also subject to the kiddie tax. So, as we discussed, the first $2,500 or so of income will be taxed at the child's tax rate, and anything higher than that will be at the parental tax rate. So this can make trusts less tax efficient than other saving vehicles like 529 plans. The big advantage of 2503C trusts is control. As the trust creator, you set the rules for how the funds are distributed, which can be especially useful if you want to ensure the money is used for specific purposes like education. These trusts can be a powerful tool for families with complex financial planning needs, but for most families, the simpler, more tax efficient option, like a 529 plan, will do just fine. Finally, IRAs can be used for college savings, but that's not what they're designed for. Individual retirement accounts can be used for college expenses, but only under specific circumstances. Normally, if you withdraw money from an IRA before the age of 59 and a half, you'll face a 10% early withdrawal penalty. However, if you use the funds for qualified educational expenses, that penalty is waived. This applies to both traditional and Roth IRAs. If you're considering withdrawing from a traditional IRA, the money will still be subject to income taxes, even if the early withdrawal penalty is waived. With a Roth IRA, you can withdraw your contributions tax-free at any time, and you won't owe taxes on earnings if the account has been open for at least 5 years. Another consideration is that IRA assets aren't counted on the FAFSA when determining financial aid eligibility, like most retirement accounts, which can be a benefit for families trying to maximize aid. However, while IRAs offer some flexibility for college savings, I generally recommend using them as a last resort, or don't even think about using them. That's your retirement money. You can borrow money for college, but you can't borrow for retirement. So you want to be very cautious about dipping into your retirement funds for educational costs. So now that we've covered the major options, you're probably wondering which one is right for your family. So here's the general rule of thumb. For most high-income families, like physician families, the 529 savings plan is generally the best option. Why? Because it offers flexibility, strong tax benefits, and has a favorable impact on financial aid eligibility. And you're able to invest in it. The ability to invest in any state's plan gives you a wide range of choices. And the fact that unused funds can be rolled into a Roth IRA or be used for K through 12 education or just be allocated to a different beneficiary adds to the plan's versatility. But according to 529 rules, the government requires that the states offer kind of a bundle of investments. Usually, states will offer age based or risk based bundles. If you want a little bit more control over investments, a brokerage account can be a good secondary option, though you'll lose out on those tax advantages that the 529 plans offer. If you qualify, which most physician families won't, to get the tax benefits from the Series E, or I bonds, that can also be a good way to have a low risk option and hedge against market volatility and inflation. So, what can you do to start saving for college and make it a part of your financial plan? Number one, start early. The sooner you start, the more money you'll have. Time is your greatest ally when it comes to compounding interest. So start now. Start small. Start with whatever you can, and then you can continue to adjust as you go along. Automate your contributions. Set up automatic transfers, and that way you don't have to think about it every month, and the money just gets taken care of, and you take out human fallibility from the equation. Use 529 plans. They are available to any physician family, and they offer a very easy way to save for college. Involve the family. You can ask for your friends and family to contribute to your kids' 529 plans. Most of these have sharing links that you can send them for birthdays and special occasions. So that's one way to boost 529 savings for college for your kids and also limit the clutter in your house. Consider multiple savings vehicles. You don't have to use just one. You could do 529 and brokerage savings for college. Just keep in mind financial aid impacts, and you could even do UTMAs or UGMAs as long as you do something with that money before you fill out the FAFSA. And remember, the FAFSA is backwards looking. So you want to do this a couple of years ahead of when you actually fill out the FAFSA. Reassess regularly. So, like I said before, just get started. You can always change your plan every year. You should really sit down with your family and look at your goals and your savings rates once a year and just adjust it every year depending on how you're doing, what you think your kids are going to need in the future, and adjust as you need. Saving for college can feel overwhelming, but with the right plan in place, you can set your kids up for success without sacrificing your own financial goals. For most families, a 529 savings plan is going to be the most practical and flexible option. But it's always worth exploring other vehicles to see what makes the most sense for your situation. Remember, it's important to balance your savings priorities. Don't put your own retirement at risk over saving for college. Finally, don't hesitate to consult a fee-only financial planner or advisor. And just make sure that you are saving enough. Make sure you have the right numbers based on your situation. You don't have to DIY it all. It's not hard to DIY it, but if you really want the confidence of someone else looking over your numbers, pay for a one-time fee for them to do that. Thanks for tuning in to this deep dive into college savings options on finding financial freedom with the Frugal Physician. I hope you found this information helpful, and I encourage you to reach out with any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes. Send those questions or comments to thefrugalphysician@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. Your sharing this information with people that might find it beneficial help us grow and help us impact the community in even more of a positive way. Stay informed, stay frugal, and keep working towards your financial goals. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
The content shared on this podcast should not be taken as individualized financial advice. We are here to share our knowledge and experiences, but it is crucial to consult with professionals such as accountants, financial advisors, or attorneys who can provide personalized guidance based on your specific needs.